Brr.
Baby, it's cold outside.
Yes, it is.
Have you heard the politically correct version?
I think I have actually.
It's pretty good. John Legend, I think. Is that who
Yeah.
it is? I think it
I don't
is.
know. I heard it.
All right. I don't know what episode this is. I don't know what's going on.
We finally reached the point in the show where we've lost count of the episodes, which means that it's just a regular part of our week now. It's not that we're counting how high we get. We're just in it. We're all in all the time. We're thinking about you guys, creating love and blazing new trails and the possibilities for humor, silliness, and sometimes the deep, dark, serious shadow.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is our first recording after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. It's great to be back. I'm still grateful.
Right on.
Yeah.
You had a good Thanksgiving?
I did. It was sweet. Went down to Paso Robles and visited family. And it was great to see the youngins and see my girlfriend's family and experience the blessings of abundant food and warmth. And then also some quiet time. Friday was quiet.
Were you still down there?
Yeah, we were still down there. We were down there the whole weekend. One of the fun things I did was on Saturday, I went and got some LED colored holiday lights and put them on the interior of my truck bed, my cab on my truck. And so now it drives around and it's got colored lights in the windows of my truck. So it's a holiday vehicle.
How do you electrify them?
There's an outlet in the back of the truck.
Ah.
So it just plugs right in.
And are they like synced up to your radio or your music or anything?
No, they don't do anything spectacular. They just glow warm colors. And
that's very cool. Do they change colors?
No, they're just cheap things that were probably made in Vietnam or China or something.
They work, and they
work.
Cheer.
Yeah,
holiday cheer. Yeah,
yep.
yeah. We're in December. We're into the last month of the year.
That's right. The first step towards darkness. Solstice is coming. 21 days.
Yeah. Are you and Kathy gonna go caroling with Neil and I?
I don't think so. I might go.
Okay. 21st.
I need to know more about the date.
It's Wednesday the 21st. That's the solstice. The 21st.
Oh, that's when you guys always go?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was pretty clear I didn't want to go this year, and now I'm feeling somewhat sure that I want to go.
All right. Life has changed.
Hedging my hedging.
That is so funny. There's a
I'm gonna sing, if I go, I'm gonna sing in a Monty Python voice the whole time.
All right.
Oh, holy night, the brights are lightly brightening.
The lights are brightly lightning.
See, this is why you don't want me to go.
Well, if we don't get treats because of that sinning, then yeah, we're kicking you out.
Treats?
Yeah, that's the big part of why
Cookies?
we do it.
Schnapps?
Exactly.
Oh, year. Honestly, anytime you're hanging out with Neil and walking the streets at night singing, it's an adventure.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a holy
night.
Did
he cut his hair?
No way. No way. He looks like Rasputin.
Oh, he has a beard now too?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh, fantastic.
Boy, it's been a while since you've seen Neil, huh?
If I walked up on him on the street, I probably wouldn't recognize him.
Oh, you would.
Is he a fan of the show? Does he listen to podcasts? Probably not.
No. He listened to our first episode and it was raw. And he was just like shocked. It's
like, this is not for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
we are the beef tartare of podcasts.
He wrote a solstice carol that is beautiful, and it's one of my favorite that's in our genre.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Maybe I should bring the the Mark's Canon.
What's that?
It's a Christmas Carol
Oh, that's right,
canon,
that your sister wrote. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's sung in the round, so we'd have to start at different times.
Right. Well, we could do that.
We might have to practice.
Yeah, we keep
You know what's
saying we're gonna do that, but we don't practice.
you know what's really sad is that we aren't meeting at Mama's to start it.
I don't think that's sad.
Oh well, I
But
do.
it was very convenient. It was nice to start there and have hot apple cider on the stove,
Hmm.
hot chocolate.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was a cool place to converge.
So, do you guys go up your street or do you converge
No,
down on the
Sycamore,
flatland? Sycamore.
Sycamore. Yep, Flatlands, where all the kids are.
Are you getting any of your kids to come?
No, they won't come.
Why not?
Same reason you didn't want to.
It was nice and warm next to Netflix. That's why.
Exactly. They're like, Christmas caroling. A lot of people don't like to sing. Like just the thought of singing out in public is a
You know,
no.
this is funny because people used to sing every Sunday in church, even though they were bad at it, and at least they would think that maybe they could sing. And now they don't even have that, so less and less people sing than might
Well,
normally.
I think it depends what church you go to.
Well, of course it does.
So that's a very hey, that's one of the things I was thinking about talking about is generalizations. Um, because I was thinking about woke culture and calling people out. And as you know, I'm on this
Calling
task
people
force.
in, like we talked about.
Right, exactly. Calling people in, exactly. And one of the scenarios yesterday that was someone that was feeling put on upon because they wanted to celebrate the life of the queen in as a part of their mourning process, but they felt they were getting pushback from people because of her participation with colonialism. And part of our looking at the scenario was how do you call a person in? You know, like there's two people who are feeling um, emotionally distraught. One person was like a silent one in the moment who was a person of a colonial country, you know, and kind of wanted to speak up, like, hey, well, you know. So, anyway, I arrived at this thought that people are people. And when we generalize, we get into trouble. You know, like if you hired a Jewish accountant because you think Jews are good with money, well, you might have hired a shitty accountant, you know, because people are people. There's good people, there's people that are shitty, and they come in all flavors.
Generally, I agree with you.
Dun-dun-dun. That was a softball across the plate. If you didn't hit that one, man.
So the thing is, we tend to make up our minds so that we can have boxes that we can put things in so we don't have to do the work in the moment of actually finding out what's real. And it's a habit that is functional part of the time. And that's why it's so dangerous is because, you know, generally speaking, generalization is generally a successful proposition. You
Well,
know, you can sort of guess that if the person's really dirty and disheveled and talking to themselves as they shuffle down the street, that they're dangerous. But that's not true.
that's funny. I was thinking homeless. Well, see,
So,
so our generalization's good. Like, what's a good scenario for an appropriate generalization?
if you go into the fridge and you pull out the chicken salad and it smells like death, it's generally thought It's a good general idea that it's probably not edible.
No, but see, that's a specific that's like a specific moment. You've gone
Okay,
into the
you
fridge.
got me.
I don't wanna get you, like, I
No, I
really.
know, I understand. I'll try to be more serious. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Why, do you have chicken salad in your fridge?
No, God, no, never.
Are you guys vegetarian?
No way.
Kill the animal!
Eat them now.
Alright,
Um, Generally, no. Um, I'm not vegetarian. So far this morning, I am.
alright. But, like, what is
It's a weakness. It's a
generalizations?
cheat. It's this idea that if we don't have to do the work with each person to actually meet them at the level of who they are and what they know, and actually take the time, energy, and attention to talk to them, one human being to another, we get away with, it's basically laziness. It's easier, but it's also robs us of the richness of human communication.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that like, here's a generalization, but I know I'm gonna not do it because of that. Like, I wanna be met, and all the people that I know wanna be met personally. They wanna be seen and known. And I think also, here's another example of a generalization that was trouble. This morning when I was working out, there was a woman on her cell phone having this conversation, like, near me. And at first I was upset, but then I thought, well, why am I upset? I think I'm upset because of this generalization that people talking on their cell phone in a public space is upsetting. Am I really upset? And if I am, why am I choosing that? And then, I worked with it and it went away and I didn't care anymore.
Yeah, we do have common agreements, unspoken agreements that we enforce and that we carry out in our culture. And they're serviceable on some level, they're functional. But on another level, there's the potential for one, getting it wrong, like looking at some situation or some person and deciding we know what's up and
Right.
getting that wrong. And then
Right.
all of the emotional roller coasters that we go on around having that judgment, right?
Right.
So we do this whole thing that we create out of our own head. Uh, and meanwhile, there's this other possibility that exists on just the other side of actually asking a human, compassionate question about the situation. Like, do you have to fucking smoke right there?
And they turn around and go, yeah, and shoot you in the head.
Right?
um, Before you said your joke, I was thinking that's what calling in is
Yeah,
being in the moment and really meeting the person.
right. Most people may want that, but for some, it feels so alien because it's not a practice that we've had. Even when you might say we had more social graces as part of the way we teach our kids, with quote manners, or how we talk to each other in social situations. Even those were perfunctory and performative, and not necessarily reflective of true curiosity. And I think that's what it comes down to: is, are you curious enough to meet someone and really meet them where they are? Can you reach out with your feelings to imagine their experience before you impose your viewpoint on what it really is, on what you think it is?
Or even, like you said earlier, curiosity, inquire where they're at
Mhm.
instead of even reaching out with feelings. There's a
Well, with you and your person on their cell phone, You were hearing half of a conversation, and there were probably lots of clues about what was going on for them in the half of the conversation that you heard, and you could draw your own conclusions. In fact, you did draw your own conclusions. You didn't ask them, "Hey, what's going on with you? Why are you on your phone?" Or the other thing you didn't do is state what was true for you, which is, "Hey, I just want to share with you that right now I'm working out and I'm feeling disturbed by you."
Yeah, but what I think is more important is what you've, said before is radical responsibility. I took responsibility for what I was feeling and didn't make it their problem. It was my problem, and I worked it out. Didn't even
Yeah,
have to interact with them at all, and they
right.
didn't have to change.
Right. And were you happy?
Yeah, it just
Okay.
really disappeared. It wasn't suppressed. It wasn't like I was there like, I just once I realized that my reactions seemed to be more from this generalized idea of someone on their cell phone in a public space is annoying, that's what I was really responding to. A generalization I had accepted as real.
What happens to me is I see people walking down the street talking and no one there, and it still trips me out. And it takes me, a second and a half to realize, oh, yeah, there are earbuds involved and they're having a conversation with someone. You know, it still disarms me when I see people talking into nothing.
What do you do? Go running?
Well, I I notice, right? I get curious.
You
What
notice like
I
your
notice my reaction first, and then I get curious about what I'm experiencing. And the basic question that's happening is this person dangerous, or is this just someone on their cell phone?
hmm, maybe that's when generalizations are good, is you could accept the generalization that earbuds are a part of life now. So someone talking to themselves walking down the street is
Well, there's the awareness, the knowledge of that, but then there's the deeper sort of ingrained experience that is not used to that yet.
the DNA of the
Maybe if I
situation.
lived in Manhattan, I would be desensitized to this because I'd experience it as part of my daily fabric.
Right, so that's another piece is you kinda live out in a rural area. It's not, I guess, suburban? What would you call your area?
Yeah, I think it qualifies as rural, suburban, it's rural suburbia, because
Yeah,
it's one of these weird places where there's apartment buildings, single family homes, and horse ranches, right? And then not far past the horse ranches is open space. So, um, yeah.
yeah, so you're in a place where earbuds are not so popular on the street,
Well,
like,
it's still America. It's still Northern California.
America.
So there's earbuds
Alright, so you
everywhere.
have no excuse to be triggered by people with earbuds.
I don't need an excuse.
I need an excuse.
You need an excuse. For me,
Yeah.
generally speaking.
Yep.
All right, I think that's the fourth time I've used that joke, so I'm gonna stop now. Or
I
I'm gonna
think,
try to stop. I may not be able to.
yeah, repetition's a key part of humor.
Yeah.
There's joy in repetition.
Yes. So I've heard.
So he's son.
Yeah, man. It's fun. This is one of the things that about my life that I notice how often Prince comes up for me. And I'm just like, yeah, that's a measure of true impact, right? He had so many things to say, and the way he said them musically, really penetrate the memory. Like, because melody, that's why earworms are earworms, because when you combine lyrics with a song, you get memory, you get more memory. And I think that actually goes back to things like the Torah and the canting of the religious words. And, if you ever hear a mass, Christian mass or Catholic mass done in Latin, there's a cadence and a tonality to it. It's not just even if it is monosyllabic somewhat. And then even Tibetan chanting has a lyrical kind of musicality to it.
Right, well, I was even interested in what Bridge brought up about Gregorian chants, and when she was learning about healing frequencies and experiencing them really healing her, and then learned that Gregorian chants were those same frequencies, but I believe I could, I'm paraphrasing obviously, so I may be getting it wrong.
You're
But what
generalizing?
no, I'm paraphrasing. Okay. Okay, dictionary. um, but she
Emphasis on the
said that
"sh."
the Catholic Church outlawed Gregorian chants because they didn't want people to have this access to healing in such a manner. They wanted to be remain the powerful source of where people had to go for healing. And
So what you're saying was the Gregorian chanting community was outside of the acceptable norms for the Catholic Church.
right.
Got it. Yeah, well, I don't really know that much about history. Um, I find
Don't
myself
know
really
much
curious.
about history. Don't know much about geography.
Don't know much about the French I took.
Don't know much about
Science
some.
books.
But I do know that I love you. And I know that if you love me too, what a
What a
wonderful
wonderful
world
world this
this
would
would
be.
be.
Yeah, so I think the tonality of words helps us remember them. Obviously, you remember that song because of that. And I was thinking yesterday that there was a truck here with some workmen, and they were hanging fiber outside the houses. So
Wow.
they brought fiber to the main pole, and now there's 8 junction boxes for each of the houses here on the cul-de-sac, and I'm like, "Ooh, I'm going
Ooh.
to have a fiber optic internet connection soon." And I'm
Wow.
like, "Ooh, what could I do with that?" And I'm like, "Well, geez, like everything seems to run fast already. It's like there's no movies that I'm not being able to watch or download or whatever." I'm like, well, why do I really want this? And then it dawned on me. I'm like, well, it's not the download speed, it's the upload speed,
Yeah.
right? I can serve up more. And then I was like, you know what? I want to know what it would cost for us to be able to do like music on the show, and maybe even have like a
Um,
radio station where we played music as DJs, right? And we like not like the traditional FM DJ where we play the song and then we talk a little and we play the song,
right.
right? And I'm like, I want to know like what would a general license for that run me for internet radio?
Hmm.
And because it would be so fun to be able to sit with you and talk about music and then play the track and not have to worry about these other venues. And I'm like, well, I think we can do it on Twitch, right? Can we do it on Twitch?
Well, we could even do it on here. Um,
You
for
mean
sure.
on the Apple podcast, but our YouTube and our Facebook lives would get shut down right away, wouldn't they?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Um, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Like now that I've got access, or I'm going to have access to fiber in 2023, I'm thinking, how could I make this more fun?
Yeah, if we got somehow some licensing to and had permission, YouTube has a very excellent resource for saying, I've got permission to do this.
Yeah.
So they're great at that. Facebook, my experience with Facebook
They
is,
just shut you down.
I don't know. I just know like I guess it's 50-50. I've had some experience with Facebook where I'm trying to get support and it's just a fucking
Nightmare.
nightmare.
It's a
And then
black
I've had
hole. You send some messages in and nothing happens.
right, right.
Zuckerberg has everybody chained to their terminals down in a dark dungeon, and no one has phones
Yep.
or email,
Yep. They're just walking around this wooden wheel.
waiting for their check to clear.
Yep. Yep.
And
And
they're
then
busy.
sometimes there's
They're busy
been
trying to design their new avatars for when it goes full, virtual.
it is interesting. I heard maybe I already mentioned it to you, but some guy was talking about how this meta thing, it's going to be about 15 years before it really is a part of our life. He was saying that
Well, would
generally speaking, technology takes about 15 years. Like it enters and there's a big hurrah, and then usually it bursts because he thinks cryptocurrency is going to remain a part of human life.
yeah, we should love to talk to this guy. It'd be a fun conversation. I tend to agree with him about crypto. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so too.
blockchain technology. But,
Yeah.
recent events have shown that if you are buying things and then letting someone online hold on to them for you, that might be a bad strategy.
Well, if you're letting meth heads run a billion-dollar company, that might be a bad strategy.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that. Is that generally true that they were meth heads, or are you just
Well, apparently
generalizing?
the young woman that was a COO or something like that, she posted a tweet that said, like, microdosing meth, you realize how banal regular life is.
Then it becomes a definition of a microdose last year was this much, and a microdose this year is a little bit more.
Yeah, your
Just a
teeth are
little.
falling out. I'm fine. I'm fine. But that's part of what this person was saying. Like you look back at the internet thing of the late 90s, when pets.com and all these companies were huge and where kids were running them primarily. And, they were buying these $100,000 desks and just their business
That was a good
practices
time
were
to be in the
terrible.
desk business.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. It's like being in the gene business during the gold rush, being in
Yeah.
the hardware business.
Yep. Yeah. There's a great book called Mud, Blood, and Gold, which is all about
Mm.
the San Francisco area right before and during the gold rush.
Hey, did it go into like I have heard that there was this thing with the mayor and construction companies, and so many corners were cut in the building of San Francisco, which is why the earthquake was so devastating.
They didn't talk about that because it ended, the book started in the the 40s, 1840s, before the gold rush.
Oh, okay.
And then it's laid that set the stage for what happened in 48 and 49 and then 50 and 51. And it's fascinating to see the power struggles and the various things that happened. That I recommend the book Mud, Blood, and Gold. I
Okay.
don't remember the author's name, but it was a fascinating read for me. And you know I think earthquakes knock shit down. Like, I doesn't think it matters what the construction was. You know, I don't think that's a real thing. Like,
Well, it'd be worth researching.
one man's cutting corners is another man's being actually able to build his house for the money he had.
No, but it was the skyscrapers, the office buildings, the downtown area.
Well, in 1906, the skyscrapers weren't all that big.
Well, they must have been bigger than. Uh, Mark is having a sneeze. Is that a sneeze or a cough?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Throw me under the bus. See if I can.
No, he's right. I pushed the mute button so that when I coughed from drinking my
Okay.
water, that it wouldn't actually disturb the audience. But of course, Greg can't let it go. He had to mention it.
Yep. This is real. Hey, I'm wondering um, if this should be a short
Why don't you?
episode.
Can you state that as a desire?
I would like this to be a short episode.
So, are you giving me like a 5-minute warning? Warning?
I'm giving you no warning at all.
Okay, I see how you are.
I'm asking since Art took a coffee break. I don't know where he is.
Yeah, well, we were working on guests. One of the things we're going to do in 2023 is have more guests. We were, the guest we had last week was really great, and
And the
props.
one before was really great. Yeah, we've
Yeah,
had, yeah.
and it's not that we're boring, as far as I can tell. Uh,
We fooled
I mean,
ourselves at least.
we did look at the metrics, and there was a twofold increase in listenership when we had a guest. So we're taking that to heart. Art
Yeah,
showed
fuck
us
you
that.
guys who say that Mark and I aren't enough.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I forget what I was talking about. Gold
You were
rush, earthquakes. Yeah. Yeah. Greg's
buildings being short.
buildings being short.
Mark the Marshmallow Man walking through San Francisco in the early 1900s going, your fucking buildings are little. Fuck you.
Yeah. I'm such a big man.
Big man, big M-A. Have you heard that song? Big man, big M-A-N, big
No,
man.
no, no. See, this is one of those moments where if we could just like pull it up and play the song, we could have a deeper conversation, more entertainment value for the show.
I would love to do a music show. Yeah, we should look into that
Yeah.
right
Let's,
after we trademark our. That certainly fell off, didn't it? What? There's work involved? Fuck that.
shh, don't tell anyone.
Oh boy. Hey, did you respond to my Facebook thing from when you posted a plan, something about a plan?
Um, no, I kind of wanted to have that that conversation in private.
Oh, well, that was a good time.
Yeah, since no one's listening. No, actually, people are listening. In
Yeah,
fact,
they are.
yeah, my partner came home and said they really liked last week's podcast. They were like, we
Oh,
listened
right
to the
on.
last half of it. But
Yeah, I'm a little jealous because Moped Outlaws is growing quicker than Live with Greg.
well, yeah. Well, they're
I'm
both
trying to
yours,
make
so
it nice. It's a fact.
it's twice the success for you. Neither one of them would be what they are without you, Greg.
Neither one of them are paying our bills.
Well, that's true. Um, and I have it on good authority that the journey to a podcast paying your bills is 3 to 5 years, if you're consistent. And I
What
think
about
we've
the?
got that going for us.
I have
And
it on bad authority that you could use your podcast as a down payment for a nice house.
my podcast,
Yeah, our
well,
podcast.
in some ways, somehow, the idea is not just to monetize what we do, but to create so much value around what we share and what we offer that it just grows of its own organic accord. And I trust that the two, moderately brilliant, sort of funny guys who are aging have quite a niche to provide.
A niche.
Kind of
That's such
wisdom
a
with a
great word.
lowercase w.
I bought my wife a niche for Christmas.
Yes. Uh,
um,
so speaking of wives, how was your date?
well, her husband came along, so it wasn't that great. um, it was very good. We're going out again Saturday,
That's awesome.
and it was very nice.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you. And again, like this occurred to me earlier when you were talking about meeting someone and being curious. It's funny how the mind, when this is in essence kind of a stranger to me, right? But we're obviously going out together with an equal desire for romance in our life, not necessarily with each other, but that's why I'm going out on a date because I want to be romantically involved with someone, and she shared that she's going out because she wants to be romantically involved with someone. So the mind jumps around. Like I just watched my mind back off, like, nope, this isn't working, not working. Like, why? I don't know. You know,
Mm.
the shoes were red. You know how you are about red shoes. Like it's just stupid. And like, oh, I'm scared. No, that's not it. you know?
Yeah. That's brilliant. Like just noticing that there's some fear for you and some concern. And
Yeah.
it's hard, especially when you've had something so brilliant go so terribly wrong. It definitely makes us gonna try. And I'm speaking from my own experience. I'm not speaking from yours necessarily, but um I
Well, it
get it.
did. It was
I get
definitely,
it.
I was in a very dark place after the divorce.
So I keep this on my desk,
Love rewards the brave.
and that's by Daniel De Laporte and danieldelaporte.com. And it's a good reminder, because when you lean into your desire, when you lean into the possibility of breaking through into what is behind and beyond the fear, you can discover the glorious rewards of romance. Like, you're both looking for romance, and guess what? It's staring you right in the face. So the question is,
And his name is
how
Mark Went.
can you embody being romantic so that that feeds her? Like, if you just are romantic yourself, and
Right.
by romantic I mean in the general sense, that then it's there. It's You've brought it into the circle and you're sharing it without qualification, without expectation, just generously being a source. So when you're the source, it's exactly what is required. It's exactly what you want and need. And you know, you're right. The mind is what gets in our way.
Yeah.
I think most people forget to play.
With themselves.
No, just to play when they're on a date. To play.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's so important.
Well, it's such a, like, audition or a resume thing, like, it
I think
just
you've already moved past the resume. You're now in the interview process.
yeah.
In fact, it's not even an interview process. That you've got the job. The job's yours now. The question is, can you perform? Can you bring like
That
the
is the
energy to it?
question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Luckily,
And
they invented this little blue pill for performance.
no, that's not what I meant. Besides, there's so many more ways to be sensually giving than just the blue pill.
Yeah, there's nothing like a football game to bring sensuality to a relationship. Hey, you been watching? No, you haven't. Never mind.
So I noticed how quickly you really wanted to get off the spot. Like, this makes you uncomfortable, doesn't it?
No,
That's why you brought up football, because I know you don't care about football.
I love football. I
Yeah.
watch it what is it on? Saturday, Sunday, every Monday. I'm a football geek.
Yeah.
Go
No.
Raiders.
No. It with you, it would be like a football, like digital football on your phone, if at all.
Yeah, that's true. Played
Anyway,
fantasy football for many a year until everyone I knew, which was the sole reason I was playing, kind of bounced out.
yeah, I never tried fantasy football because real football was just too disappointing. So I just figured, well, if real football's no good, fantasy football is not going to be any good. And the reason it was so disappointing is that when I was 7 years old, I discovered that my favorite football team, the Minnesota Vikings, were thrilling to watch. And between the years of 7 and 13, they got to the Super Bowl 3 times and they lost each one. And
Ugh.
then I kept with them after that. And then into my 20s and early 30s, took them a while to get back to the Super Bowl. And then they lost 2 more times in the Super
Wow.
Bowl. And what I'll say is that, for the most part, I've been a Vikings fan all my life. There was a brief period where I was married and my wife was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and so I was a Steelers fan for that period of time. But and they won a few Super Bowls, which was somewhat for me because it wasn't the Vikings. But now that I'm single, well, not single. Now that I'm not married to her anymore, I can be true to myself and be a Vikings fan again.
That doesn't sound good, Mark. Now that I'm not married, I can be true to myself once again and not the clip Goya that
See,
I
that was
wanted.
some sophisticated humor I just laid down there, buddy.
All right. Well done.
Yeah. Anyway, in so many respects, and the NFL is the modern day equivalent of gladiator sports, bread and circuses to keep the masses doped up with, entertainment, so they don't realize what's going on. Probably the biggest thing to hit the NFL was Colin Kaepernick. Like in my view, him taking a knee was the most exciting thing that happened in NFL.
All right. What about what the rest of the world refers to as football?
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I was part of the Northern California Youth Soccer League. So from about 11 to 14, I played soccer regularly and what to the rest of the world is known as football. Football. And I loved that sport. It was fun. Um, and later I tried to go back to it. That I joined an over 40 league when I was in my 40s. And that was brutal because most of the guys that were in that were of European descent or Middle
Ooh.
Eastern descent. And they were hardcore players. And they got really angry if you did anything wrong. It was like all about anger it was like my own teammates would look at me askance and be angry with me, and I would be like, "What the fuck?" But I played pretty good until I pulled a muscle,
Uh,
and then I couldn't play. I mean, I pulled my quad, um, and that was it. I was out for the season, and I didn't go back for the next season. But I enjoyed it. I practiced a bunch and played 3 games. The second game I pulled the quad, and then on the third game I tried to play with the pulled quad, and that was a disaster.
mm.
Um, I think I gained a little respect playing injured. Like they were like, "Oh, this Yank isn't quite as weak as he appears."
That just makes me think of our friend Kyle, who passed away.
Yeah, Kyle.
And he was a hardcore soccer player right to the end.
Yeah, he was a leader in a very quiet way. Like he was outspoken in a very grounded and kind way. Like there was a calm flexibility and nurturing to him that was underpinned with a stealthful iron will. Like he really committed to the things that he was committed to in his life,
Yeah.
and that was one of the things I loved about him. Was he was, I mean, I remember his smile and his laughter and the way he would just crack jokes, and he had a kind of ironic view of life, and at the same time his convictions were solid. That guy would not take shit, and he wouldn't compromise on his values, and he was really good as a musician too. And bass players are, with the few exceptions like Sting and Paul McCartney, um, they're not usually known as big stars, but he was the rock that held together one of the great blues bands and rock and roll bands of our regional area, which is the Walt the Dog Blues Band, and or the Walt the Dog is probably how he
Yeah.
preferred to be known. But yeah, Kyle spoke fluent bass, and I wasn't close to him, but I felt him every time I was in his presence because he just had that radiance of strength and love and power, and you could just tell the kind of guy he was.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good summing up
And
of
yeah,
of
and I guess he died in his sleep, which is a pretty good deal if you can swing that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Died peacefully in his sleep.
Well, let's hope that next week's show doesn't kill us in our sleep.